Hi guys, so it's me, I'm back, and I've been watching several different videos and reading articles on the story of Samson and Delilah, and I'm really starting to come up with a theory about all of these different stories, which I wouldn't be surprised if most of us are already on the same page when it comes to it. But let's go into the story, okay? In the story of Samson and Delilah, I've heard two versions. One is that there is a Taryn that is who Samson originally fell in love with, a young lady. And there is also Delilah, who is supposedly, sorry about any noise right then, but who is supposedly this young woman, Taryn's sister. Um, and in the second version is that Delilah is owned by, she's like not queen status, but close to queen status for the Philistines. And the young prince, who's betting her, wants her to get information when it comes to Samsung. Either version, what they show is that Samson is in love with this young lady, Taryn, who's a Philistine. He ends up wanting to marry her. Obviously, his family's against it, but he wants to marry her and she wants to marry him. But she is also a slave. She's a Philistine, though, but she's a slave to the Philistine royal family. And so there's controversy on them getting married because he's a Hebrew and he's a Nazarite on top of it, which means that he's a blessed Hebrew. Okay. So anyway, he falls in love with this young lady. She falls in love with him and she ends up getting killed. Either version, she ends up getting killed. And when she ends up getting killed, Samson fights off the Philistines, and in his grief, he gets wounded, and Delilah is sent into the picture. On one story, she's sent in the picture for revenge for her sister because she's mad because it was because of him that her sister got killed. On the other story, it was because the young prince tricked her, threatened her, and told her, offered her riches if she got the information of what is Samson's true strength. So Delilah tricks Samson. First, she gains his confidence, then she tricks him, and she deceives him um, by using her emotions and seduction to get him to tell her his secret. And his secret was that his strength was in his hair. And so Samson ends up, um, Delilah ends up drugging Samson. And when she drugs him, she cuts off his hair. And he then gets captured by the Philistines and put on display, beaten and put on display, and then made to work as a slave for them until he finally starts to gain his strength back when his hair grows back in. And upon his hair growing back in, well, right before that, Delilah goes and visits him several times and tries to plead with him because she feels bad because they burnt out his eyes and tortured him. And so she's having a lot of guilt because she did love him, although she betrayed him and got him captured. Anyway, he ends up taking down the whole palace when his hair grows back in. He's tied to two pillars, he's beaten there, and he prays to God, and he to the Hebrew God, or to God, and then he gets captured. Then he takes down the pillars and he kills everyone inside of it. In one story, in the main story, Delilah stays inside of the building. Some say that she was trying to run out of the building. I don't believe that. Because she was in love with him and because she went and visited him so many times, I do think that she stayed by his side while he took down the whole thing, but he didn't know she was there. So anyway, real quick, okay, I gotta say, I'm not really a fan of how the stories always seem to make a woman a bad guy, no matter what. In these love stories, and in most of them, it's the main character that turns out to be a bad guy. And it's like, hmm, why is that? That's my question right now. As I'm sitting there, first as I said, I read some articles, and then I decided to watch some movies on it, and all I can think is that, wow, like, it seems like there were a lot of writers that did not that weren't very big fans of women in ancient times. And I mean, you can go through most of these stories, and you'll be like, dang, and it's kind of funny because in the same thing in this story, Samson's parents was against her because she was a Philistine slave, not a Hebrew slave. So all of a sudden, just being a slave to the same master isn't enough. You have to be of the same culture. And I understand how cultures work because, as I said, all of these stories are about love stories that are people trying to keep that separation, the twin flame, the divine couple. They're trying to keep them apart, okay? And they're using all different tactics. And it's through all cultures, all societies. As you'll see, we're going to go through as many as we can find. But there's always this need to keep people away from each other for some reason, okay? And whether it's money, whether it's power, whether it's status, whether it is religion, it doesn't seem to really make any difference. Once other people have the right to put their 2 cents into a relationship, it's one of the hardest things for these divine couples to get together because there are so many that are determined to get in the way of it, and it floors me that they're so nosy. I'm sorry, but to me it's like, why are you so in this person's business? Like, first of all, if you raise a child to a certain age and you still need to control that child, you did something wrong. Okay, that's how I see it. Like, you should have enough faith in the way that you raise that child for them to make the right decisions for their lives. I don't understand how that's not a concept when people in all societies are still just looking out for what they want to gain out of it, and it always seems to be something that someone wants to gain from that control over the couple. So it's just really like the father trying to sell his daughter or the mother trying to control her son. There's always something that's really at the root of it that shows that it's a control thing, and sad for most of these couples, it doesn't end well, for them. So anyway, I I'm kind of taken aback on that story because it's starting to shed light. Every time I do one of these stories, I start to see something else. And although it's one of my favorite stories because I like stories, I like romance, I like dramas, I like um, I'm a huge fan of comedies, but I like stuff that makes you think and it ties you emotionally to it. But I also feel like there needs to be a new wave that comes into play into our world, into this world, into the 20th century, where people stop doing that. Stop interfering in places that you don't have any right to. You've been married, you lived your life, you had this child, you've experienced all of the things that you needed to. Let your child learn on their own, okay? When they hit a certain age, it's time to cut the umbilical cord and stop being crazy. Anyway, that's just my theory. I'm going to go on to the next story, and I will hint at what that is in my next play. But currently, I'm going to look for a love story that I might just do a little bit of Romeo and Juliet. I think that one has been played out so much, everybody knows that one, but again, it's one of those that it's tragic, it's lovely, it's beautiful, but it's designed to remind you that control over other people's lives is wrong. Anyway, okay, I'll hit you up with the next video. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. And again, I'm sorry I was kind of all over the place, but I enjoy having these little story times with you guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.